Hello, knowledge seekers. In this episode of 20-Minute Books, we explore Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Taleb, a thought-provoking collection of essays that dives deep into how randomness influences financial markets and life. Taleb, an esteemed academic, author, and former Wall Street trader, draws from a rich blend of statistics, psychology, and philosophy to demonstrate the pervasive role of randomness. This book is ideal for investors and financial professionals who are keen to gain a deeper understanding of risk and performance. It's also a must-read for anyone interested in the mechanisms of human decision-making or those who look to daily news as a source of valuable information. Join us as we unpack the intriguing insights from Fooled by Randomness and learn why Nassim Taleb is regarded as one of the top intellectuals on subjects like luck, uncertainty, and knowledge. Fooled by Randomness, The Hidden Role of Chance in Life and the Markets. Introduction. Understanding the Illusion of Control. How luck mimics skill. Imagine walking through a hall of mirrors. Every reflection distorts reality, sometimes stretching it thin, other times compressing it into unrecognizable shapes. This is akin to how randomness and luck often obscure our perception of skill and determinism, particularly in high-stakes environments like the stock market. Most people attribute success to skill and failure to external factors. This bias is particularly strong in fields where outcomes are highly uncertain and influenced by random factors. Consider the stock market, a perfect playground for randomness and luck, where a capable investor might more accurately be dubbed lucky guesser. In professions requiring tangible, measurable skills, like plumbing or dentistry, success without competence is virtually impossible. These fields have clear feedback loops and direct consequences for poor performance. However, the stock market is different. Here, randomness plays a significant role, and it's challenging to distinguish between genuine skill and sheer luck. Let's look at a hypothetical scenario. Suppose there are 10,000 investors, each with modest skills, facing odds of success less than flipping a coin, a mere 45% annual chance of profitability. Based on probability alone, about 200 of these investors would still manage to be profitable every year for 5 consecutive years. They'd likely be celebrated as financial geniuses, their strategies lauded, and their advice sought after. And yet, their success might simply be a fortunate alignment of random events. The illusion can persist for years, but typically, randomness eventually reasserts itself. Wall Street is replete with tales of traders who rose meteorically, only to crash disastrously when their luck ran out. This phenomenon isn't limited to financial markets. It permeates many areas of life, where the randomness of circumstances can sometimes be mistaken for the steadiness of skill. By understanding that not all that glitters is gold, and not every success story is a tale of expert navigation, but sometimes a symphony of fortuitous events, we can better analyze our own decisions and the randomness that affects us daily. It's a vital cognitive recalibration, recognizing where skill ends and luck begins. Part 1. The fragile nature of theories, always ready to be disproved. Picture yourself in a tranquil park, delighted by the sight of numerous white swans lazily floating across a serene lake. From these repeated observations, you might conclude that all swans are white. But what happens when a single black swan glides into view? This single sighting shatters your earlier assumption, proving that not all swans are white. This scenario exemplifies a significant challenge in scientific inquiry and decision-making known as the problem of induction. The idea, famously discussed by philosopher John Stuart Mill, points out a critical flaw in our reasoning. No number of observations can conclusively prove a theory. It only takes one counterexample to disprove it. The concept of the black swan serves as a potent reminder of the inherent uncertainty that underpins all our theories and beliefs. It suggests that the foundation of empirical science, induction, where generalizations are made based on observed instances, is always susceptible to being overturned by new evidence. This philosophical dilemma is not merely academic, it has practical implications, especially in areas like investing. Here, embracing the potential for our assumptions to be incorrect becomes crucial to risk management. A financial risk manager might feel confident dismissing potential risks based on historical data, claiming, "This has never happened before, hence it won't happen tomorrow." However, such a stance underestimates the dynamic and unpredictable nature of markets and the world at large. Markets, much like nature, are in constant flux. If stock prices historically rose on Mondays, savvy investors would naturally start buying on Sundays, quickly nullifying this pattern as others catch on and adapt. This continuous evolution in strategies and behaviors makes the predictability of financial markets and many other systems an elusive goal. Therefore, it is vital to continually question and reassess our theories and expectations. By acknowledging the limitations of our understanding and the ever present possibility of change, we can better prepare for the unexpected and adapt more swiftly when the conventional wisdom is overturned. Embrace uncertainty and remain ever vigilant. The next observation could change everything we think we know. Part 2. The Unpredictable Triumphs. Why the best don't always come out on top. It's a common misconception that life operates like a perfect meritocracy where the best invariably prevail. In reality, life's outcomes are often dictated by nuances and anomalies that defy straightforward logic. Take, for example, the principle of evolution, often misinterpreted as the survival of the fittest. In truth, evolution suggests that, on average, the most adaptable or fit organisms likely survive. But there's a twist. Occasionally, even the less fit manage to scrape through, courtesy of sheer luck or specific circumstances favoring them over their superior counterparts. This notion of the best not always winning extends into various aspects of everyday life, including technology. Consider the QWERTY keyboard layout. Its widespread use doesn't stem from its efficiency, but an arbitrary design choice intended to prevent the keys of early typewriters from jamming. Despite its inefficiencies, shifting to a more optimal layout never gained momentum due to general inertia and the inconvenience of change. This is what is referred to as a path-dependent outcome, where history's quirks steer the present, even if it isn't the ideal course. The concept of a tipping point further illustrates this non-linear reality. Here's where mediocrity can unexpectedly reign supreme simply through momentum. Microsoft is a prime example, where its dominance was not just about superior product quality, but also about reaching a critical mass that created a self-reinforcing cycle of consumer adoption. These dynamics are fundamental to understanding why incremental input doesn't always correlate with proportional output. Adding a single grain of sand to a pile might seem trivial, yet it could be the tipping point that causes an avalanche. The journey of a scientist is emblematic of this. Years of relentless pursuit might yield little to no progress until suddenly, a breakthrough emerges, seemingly out of nowhere. Unfortunately, due to the lack of immediate gratification, many give up just shy of possible success. This illustrates that life's playing field is anything but flat and predictable. Success can come from unexpected quarters, and those hailed as the best may not always clinch the prize. It's a reminder of the inherent unfairness and unpredictability that characterizes much of human endeavor. Part 3. How our brains use shortcuts to navigate complexity. In the complex high-information world we inhabit today, the way we reason and make decisions is often not as rational as we might like to think. Our brains are not finely tuned analytical machines, but are instead equipped with a series of mental shortcuts known as heuristics. These heuristics enable us to make swift decisions without the exhausting need to analyze every possible outcome. Historically, these mental shortcuts were survival mechanisms. For example, if our ancestors spotted a tiger in the wild, the heuristic was simple: run. The time saved by not weighing the probabilities of the tiger being friendly or the best escape route could mean the difference between life and death. However, in modern settings, these heuristics can lead us astray, giving rise to what psychologists refer to as cognitive biases. One common example is the attribution bias. This is where individuals attribute successes to their own efforts and skills. I won because I'm good, while attributing failures to external factors or sheer bad luck. I lost because the game was unfair. Another key aspect of our reasoning is path dependency. Our feelings and reactions depend significantly on how events unfold over time, not just on the outcome. Suppose you win $5 million today and lose $4 million tomorrow. You'd likely feel worse than if you had just won $1 million outright, even though both scenarios leave you a millionaire. Path dependency doesn't just affect our emotional responses, it also influences our beliefs and opinions. Our decisions and beliefs become particularly sticky when we devote substantial time and energy to them. Scientists, politicians, and indeed any of us can become so attached to our views that even compelling evidence to the contrary might not sway our thinking. From an evolutionary standpoint, our attachment to things we invest in, like our offspring or a project, makes sense. However, in the intellectual and emotional realms, this attachment can hinder our growth and adaptation. The ability to revise our opinions and contradict ourselves when presented with new evidence is not just important, it's a crucial skill in a world that is constantly changing. Understanding that our reasoning is context dependent and often based on simple heuristics might help us navigate our cognitive landscapes more effectively, making room for greater flexibility and openness in the face of new information. Part 4. The dual edge of emotion in decision making. Emotions play a pivotal role in our decision making processes, acting not just as disturbances, but also as essential drivers that guide our choices. Some experts argue that emotions are the true shortcuts in decision making, dubbed the lubricants of reason. They suggest that without these emotional impulses, we'd be perpetually stuck in a loop of indecision, overanalyzing every minor choice. The dilemma known as Buridan's donkey illustrates this point poignantly. Imagine a donkey placed precisely midway between food and water, equally hungry and thirsty. If the donkey were to rely solely on rational thinking, it could theoretically die of both hunger and thirst, unable to decide which need to satisfy first. In such cases, a dash of emotional impulse, akin to a random decision-making factor like the flip of a coin, can break the deadlock. However, while emotions can facilitate swift decision-making, they also have the potential to overpower rational thought. Research in neurobiology supports the idea that our emotional responses often precede rational analysis. Essentially, we feel first and think later, crafting logical rationales to justify our instinctive reactions. This strong influence of emotions on reasoning is beautifully encapsulated in the ancient story of Ulysses and the Sirens from Greek mythology. Aware of the sirens' deadly allure, Ulysses orders his men to plug their ears with wax and tie him to the ship's mast to safely navigate past them. This tale underscores a vital strategy. Sometimes, we must deliberately shield ourselves from emotional inputs to preserve our capacity for rational decision-making. In practical terms, this might look like an investor who chooses not to check his portfolio too frequently, knowing that the emotional roller coaster of stock market fluctuations could lead to rash decisions. By setting strict criteria for when to review financial performance, he effectively puts wax in his ears, thus safeguarding his decision-making process from emotional turbulence. Emotions undeniably aid in decision-making by providing necessary shortcuts and motivating action. However, their overwhelming force can sometimes cloud our judgment, necessitating deliberate strategies to balance emotional impulses with rational thought. By acknowledging and managing the sway of emotions, we can make more balanced and informed decisions. Part 5. The Illusion of Patterns. Why Hindsight Often Misleads Us. Humans have a curious and often counterproductive penchant for deciphering patterns and meanings from past events, especially when trying to predict the future. This habit stems from a cognitive bias known as hindsight bias, which tricks us into believing that events were more predictable after they have occurred than they seemed in real time. Take, for instance, the stock market, a domain rife with unpredictability. Despite numerous unforeseen crashes, many traders still hold on to the belief that they can foresee or evade the next downturn. This belief is largely fueled by the ease with which we can look back and spot apparent signs and warnings that weren't clear beforehand. The human tendency to see patterns where none exist is not new. It's akin to ancient practices such as reading omens in the entrails of birds or finding prophetic messages in holy texts. An author once claimed to predict historical events by pinpointing statistical anomalies in the Bible, illustrating our deep-rooted desire to impose order and predictability on fundamentally chaotic systems. This inclination extends to gamblers and traders who attribute success to irrelevant factors, like wearing a specific color shirt on a lucky trading day, and then make these factors part of their routine, hoping to influence future outcomes. Some traders use sophisticated tools like backtesters to analyze historical market data and develop trading strategies. These tools scan vast data sets to identify patterns and create rules such as always sell when the stock price is X% above its average. While these backtested rules might show promise in historical simulations, they often fail spectacularly in real-world trading because they are grounded in past randomness rather than genuine predictive power. In essence, while it's tempting to believe that we can learn from the past to predict future events accurately, the reality is that such patterns are mostly illusions. Future events are influenced by an ever-changing array of variables that defy simple forecasting. Recognizing this can save us from relying too heavily on supposed historical lessons that might lead us astray rather than guide us. This understanding emphasizes the importance of preparing for uncertainty rather than expecting the past to provide a roadmap for the future. Part 6. The Overlooked Giants. How Rare Events Shape Our World. Understanding the impact of rare events is a significant blind spot in human reasoning, a phenomenon especially evident in the realms of finance and environmental science. We often hear about hedge funds lamenting losses from large, unexpected market movements, events that their sophisticated risk models failed to predict. These models typically overlook rare events, considering them anomalies rather than integral parts of the data landscape. This oversight can lead to grave misjudgments. Early climate researchers, for example, excluded the largest temperature spikes from their datasets, dismissing them as statistical anomalies. This exclusion led to models that dramatically underestimated the potential severity of climate change, overlooking how these spikes significantly contribute to overall climate dynamics. The difficulty with rare events is that their consequences can far outweigh those of more predictable, frequent occurrences. Consider a theoretical gambling scenario. Imagine a game where you have a 999 out of 1,000 chance of winning $1 each play, but a 1 out of 1,000 chance of losing $10,000. Intuitively, many would focus on the high probability of winning small, frequent rewards. However, the rare but catastrophic loss means the expected value of playing this game is actually a loss of approximately $9 per play. A crippling setback if unrecognized. This principle doesn't just apply to abstract games, it's a real-world dilemma many investors face. They operate on strategies that yield small, frequent gains, mistakenly overlooking the devastating impact of rare, large losses. This oversight can wipe out all previous gains in a single, unforeseen event. Conversely, a less intuitive but potentially more effective strategy could involve placing bets on unlikely events that, if they occur, provide massive payoffs. This approach might involve enduring long periods of inactivity or small losses, waiting for a rare high-impact event, like a market crash. Although such events are unlikely at any given time, their eventual occurrence and the significant rewards they offer can justify the patience and smaller losses endured along the way. Our innate struggle to properly account for rare, impactful events highlights a crucial gap in human logic. By recognizing and adjusting for this bias, individuals and institutions can better prepare themselves for the significant swings that shape markets, climate, and other crucial aspects of our world. Part 7. Finding Beauty in Randomness and Strength in Stoicism. Randomness, though often perceived as a disruptive force, can be a source of joy and beauty in certain contexts. For example, while randomness in financial markets can devastate investments, it can enhance creativity and appreciation in art and poetry. The unpredictability that might be detrimental in a scientific report can bring profound depth and beauty to a piece of poetry or an art installation. This distinction highlights that not all randomness should be feared or avoided. Some of it should be welcomed for the freshness and new perspectives it brings. Taking a leaf from a Yiddish saying, "If I must eat pork, it had better be the best kind," we can similarly embrace randomness when it enriches our experience and offers harmlessly beautiful or enjoyable outcomes. This approach encourages a selective appreciation of randomness, recognizing where it can add value rather than cause disruption. However, life inevitably exposes us to harmful randomness as well, such as unexpected illnesses or accidents. In these moments where randomness brings adversity rather than joy, the ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers invaluable guidance. Stoicism teaches us to endure suffering with dignity, encouraging us not to wallow in self-pity, blame others, or indulge in complaints. Instead, it champions a dignified response, embracing personal elegance and showing courage and wisdom in the face of misfortune. Embracing Stoicism doesn't mean suppressing emotions, but rather managing them with grace and composure, focusing on what we can control, our responses and attitude. It equips us to handle life's unpredictabilities, providing a framework for dealing with the challenges wrought by harmful randomness. Thus, while we relish the benign creative sparks of randomness in art and leisure, let us also fortify ourselves with Stoic principles to navigate the inevitable storms. In both scenarios, our goal remains to derive the best from the circumstances, enjoying the harmless and enduring the harmful with resilience and grace. Part 8. The peril of paying too much attention to noise. In today's fast-paced world, both the media landscape and the stock market are flooded with noise. Incessant, random information that often has little to no value in our decision-making processes. People who diligently read finance-dedicated newspapers like the Wall Street Journal daily may find that the effort and time invested do not proportionately match the benefits gained, resembling the futile search for a needle in a vast haystack. This overwhelming influx of information, much of which is trivial, leads to a significant waste of time, about 30 hours a month, according to some estimates. Similarly, the fluctuations seen in the stock market are predominantly random noise rather than meaningful movements reflecting the underlying value of stocks. Despite attempts by financial journalists to weave narratives around these minute-to-minute changes, most stock price movements are loosely connected, at best, to fundamental business metrics. Consider the emotional toll on an investor who constantly monitors their portfolio throughout the day. Assuming their portfolio exhibits a typical 10% volatility and 15% expected returns, the frequent checks expose them mainly to inconsequential fluctuations. Human nature being what it is, this investor experiences a roller coaster of emotions, fleeting joys at marginal gains and disproportionate distress over minor losses. Statistically, such an investor endures over 60,000 minutes of anxiety against slightly fewer moments of satisfaction annually. Conversely, an investor who reviews their portfolio just once a year is far more likely to perceive meaningful performance over noise. This less frequent check-in allows the actual growth potential of the investments to overshadow the irrelevant short-term volatility, leading to significantly more moments of satisfaction. The lesson here is poignant. In both media consumption and financial investments, it pays to tune out the frequent, inconsequential noise. By focusing on longer-term results and meaningful data, one not only guards against emotional fatigue, but also fosters a more accurate and rewarding engagement with information and investments. Final summary. The central theme of this book revolves around our common misinterpretations of randomness, often seeing it as determinism or skill. Here's a recap of the crucial insights offered. 1. The dominance of randomness. Often, we confuse luck and randomness with skill and determinism. The illusion that we can control or predict outcomes in inherently unpredictable environments, like the stock market, frequently leads us astray. 2. The uncertainty of theories. Change is the only constant, and the fallibility of our theories underscores this. A single new observation can challenge years of established thought, highlighting the provisional nature of our knowledge. 3. The unpredictability of success. Life's outcomes aren't always meritocratic. Sometimes they are shaped by factors beyond merit and skill, demonstrating the non-linear and often unfair nature of success. 4. The oversimplification of human reasoning. Our decision-making is largely influenced by heuristics, mental shortcuts that, while useful, can simplify complex decisions to our detriment, particularly in high-stakes environments. 5. The overwhelming influence of emotions. Emotions play a dual role. They can guide quick decisions but also cloud our judgment, overwhelming our rational thought processes when we least expect it. 6. The illusion of retrospective clarity. Looking back, we often find patterns and explanations in past events. However, these perceived patterns are frequently misleading and not predictive of future outcomes. 7. The underestimation of rare events. Our grasp of rare, impactful events is typically weak. This leads to poor preparation and response strategies, often with costly consequences. 8. Strategies for managing randomness. Embracing the enjoyable aspects of randomness in harmless contexts, while relying on stoicism to confront the adverse effects, can provide a balanced approach to navigating life's uncertainties. 9. The value of filtering out noise. In both media and market environments, discerning valuable information from mere noise is crucial. This selective attention can protect us from unnecessary stress and misguided decisions. In conclusion, random events significantly influence our lives, careers, and the decisions we make. By recognizing and adapting to the inherent uncertainty these events introduce, we can navigate life more effectively and with greater resilience. Thank you for joining me today on this journey of learning and discovery as we explored the insights of another thought-provoking book in our growing library of knowledge. If you've enjoyed our time together, please take a moment to follow our podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and share 20-minute books with other knowledge seekers. Your support truly means a lot. Don't forget to join me again in the next episode, where we will delve into another enriching book. Until then, happy reading and happy listening.